One of my favorite questions to ask a producer, especially a producer that was really hot as an engineer producer, Val Garay was in the 70s and 80s. Who did you turn down because you were working with the big ones? Well, you were working with Peter Asher as his engineer. Who was in the house? Linda Ronstadt, James Taylor. Val Garay produced Betty Davis' Eyes. Hot August Night 2 for Neil Diamond. There was a lot of things he was juggling. There's two main acts, and they were very different acts, but huge acts that he had to turn down for the reasons you'll hear right now. Val Garay on Rock History Music. Talked to Bill Simzik maybe 2 months ago, and at the end of the interview, I said, "Well, okay, who you were? What's that?
What's he doing? Is he still living in Florida?
I think so. We talked about earthquakes, and because I big Eagles fan, but I said, is there anybody you passed on because you were busy with the Eagles? And I asked Terry Brown that last week with Rush, but he told me, Bill Simzik said, Rush. I said, what? He said, yeah, I wanted to work with the best musicians in the world. He wanted to produce Rush. He says, I never got a chance to because Terry was doing their heyday albums, their big albums. But for you, is there anybody you passed on and you go back and you go?
Well, there's a couple that, yeah, of course, everyone has that in their career. At the time, I was producing Pablo Cruz, and Pablo Cruz was managed by Bob Brown, who was a stockbroker in New York turned manager in Marin County. He moved from New York to Marin County and wanted to be in the music business, got out of the stock business and found Pablo Cruz. And so he got them signed to A&M, and I got to produce one of their early albums. And I was working on the album, and Bob said to me, I got this other band. I really want you to produce them. And he kept sending me these demos. And I kept saying, Bob, it's a bar band. I don't want to do a bar band. How was I to know it was the greatest bar band in the history of the music business? But it was Huey Lewis and the News.
Oh,
So,
my God.
which they are. I mean, they're a bar band. I mean, they're like a top 40 kind of bar band. And, Huey was always banging around Marin County for years. He was a harmonica player, and, everybody would have referred to him as, oh, yeah, it's Huey, the harmonica guy. But he had a great song sense, obviously. And what's funny is I've done a lot of writing and work with Bonnie, Bonnie Hayes. And Bonnie wrote the biggest hit that Bonnie Raitt had, which was called Have a Heart. And Bonnie's brother, Kevin Hayes, was the drummer for Robert Cray for 20 years. And her other brother was the guitarist and songwriter with Huey in Huey Lewis and the News. So it's just all,
Yeah.
intertwined. And then the other one was John Kolodner. I don't know if you know who he was. He was one of the big A&R guys at Geffen Records. And he called up my lawyer at the time, John Frankenheimer, and says, I got this band we're putting together and I want Val to produce it. And they sent me a bunch of, early demos and ideas and the name of the band and everything. And it was three guys or two guys from one English pop band and two guys from another. And it was like a conglomeration of guys they put together to make a band. And I just was like on this puritanical kind of trip where I was like, I don't want to do one of these repackaged kind of things. That was Asia.
Oh, you know what? They called Terry Brown too.
Yeah. Well, they called me first. I know that for a fact.
Well, I'm sure they did. I'm not, but it's I was trying to think while you were talking, because the second you said supergroup, well, we didn't say supergroup, but I knew what you meant. I remember going, I wonder if it's the same one. So they called him, and he didn't have time to do it.
Yeah, well, I was busy at the time too. Believe me, I just made the record of the year, but it was they did like 2 or 3 platinum records in a row.
Remember, we would love for you to have access to every video we release. YouTube will not always let you know, so we've created a mailing list. It's a brand new mailing list, and all we'll ever send you twice a week, sometimes once, are the links to our new videos. Join our mailing list. The link to that is at the very top of this video. I'm John Bowden from Rock History Music. Take care.